Namaste. This is the second part of the Mahabharata series in which we are going to see the method of research. For the method and methodology of research, I have relied upon two authors, C.R. Kothari and B.N. Ghosh, who have covered the methods and methodology of research of different subjects, like including the historical ones. The method is very important because that gives you a structured or schematic way of approaching a problem. It gives, or that is, it makes you to give the steps, the ones, whatever you have collected into steps, and then you will be going in a very coordinated way to get the results. But today, almost all the researchers of Mahabharata are using pick and fit method, which is not a method at all. For example, a very well-known Mahabharata researcher who is no more and whose work has been followed or picked up by other researchers today who are pushing their dates, he used the pick and fit method. What he did was first to gather, instead of the data of Mahabharata, he gathered the researches of the others in the past 1 century or so. Nearly 100 researches on Mahabharata dating has happened. So he arranged them to find out the dates given there. So most of the researchers, that is more than 50% of the researchers, have given the date around 3000 BCE, that is 5000 years ago. So he has taken that highest frequency as the date in which he also should put his date. What he did was he picked out the planets, particularly Saturn, on the pretext that Saturn completes some 200 revolutions in 5000 years. So that will be more reliable, he thought. So like this, he picked up Saturn and then Jupiter and then Mars, and then where they are positioned in the Mahabharata, and that combination, how many times they are repeated in the 5000 years, and which one is closer to the 5000 year mark. That is how he did it. See, this is not at all scientific. See, this should be approached like how you create a horoscope. In the horoscope also, you have the Navagrahas made, but you have to have the data correct. That is, even if the data is deviating by 10 minutes, if the time of the birth is just away by 10 minutes, you won't get the correct one. Whereas here, they are doing the inductive method of picking up some planets and then arriving at the date, which is not possible and which is not a method at all. And so the collection of data is very important because that will tell you what kind of subject knowledge you should have. So when you do MS studies, you should have the subject knowledge of the studies or courses concerned there. If you don't know any particular subject, they will ask you to finish a course on that and then join the MS course, or along with the MS course, they will ask you to do that. In the same way, you should know what kind of subject knowledge is needed to understand or to analyze the data in Mahabharata for arriving at a date, and you should equip yourself with that knowledge. It is about the 5-year Yuga calendar used in the Mahabharata, but it is not necessarily Lagada's calendar, because there is one school of thought which says Mahabharata had only that is Uttarayana starts in Dhanishta, whereas Uttarayana started in Dhanishta in Lagada's period, but in some other star during Mahabharata period. At present, it starts at Moola Nakshatra. So we have to find out in which Nakshatra it started in Mahabharata period. But at the same time, all the rules of the 5-year Yuga of Lagada can be applied. And then what about the seasons? In Mahabharata, Krishna starts in a particular season, Sharad season. And all the researchers are looking at the Western astronomy to see where the seasons have started. Even as per today's standard, the astronomy simulator will show you the Uttarayana starts in December 21st. But in reality, we don't start at that time. So like that, in Mahabharata also, they started the Uttarayana or the seasons based on the Mahabharata, that is based on the 5-year Yuga, which is mostly given as the tithis and nakshatras. But they didn't use the Western model. So you have to be careful on that account also. Then the Panchanga features. And then planetary positions are given as Nimittas and Yuddha Prashna. And astrology only is used because in all the places where the planetary positions are given, it is given with a kind of result to the people, that the people got affected, it affected the people, it gave fear, something like that. These are not part of astronomy. You go and tell a astronomer, a Shanishwara gave a Pida here. He will not understand that. It is no way connected to that. When a result is connected with a planet, that comes under astrology, not astronomy. The internal evidence. When I say internal evidence, immediately people jump into a conclusion that it is about all the references in the Mahabharata. Not at all. Both Mahabharata and Ramayana give some specific information about how to arrive at the date of the Itihasas. That is the internal evidence which we will be discussing later. And just a brief on Panchanga factors. Normally, people think that we follow lunis on our calendar. Not at all. We follow four factors of time: Saura, that is sun, and then moon, and nakshatra, and Savana. Savana is the sunrise time in a place. So when we say Kartika Masa, it should refer to the solar month, not the lunar month. And Panchanga factors are actually Ashtanga factors. The first three are the huge numbers, that Yuga, years, and then months. Months are always solar months because the sun is the creator of time. So we cannot ignore sun. In today's reckoning, people are using like today is Margashira and then the Pushyana, all dependent on your so lunar calendar. Not at all so. Our ancestors did not use that kind of calculation. And then Panchanga refers to the daily features like weekday and then star. Tithi. Here, Tithi comes only from the lunar month, but they don't use a lunar month, only the Tithi. See, 12-degree duration is given for a Tithi. That means after conjunction with the sun, the moon starts moving and then the sun also moves. So both are moving, and when they come to a distance of 12 degrees from each other, that is called a Tithi. And then yoga is the combination of like how much the sun has moved in a day and how much the moon has moved in a day. Together it makes a yoga. And then karana is half of the Tithi, that is 6 degrees. These are all used in Mahabharata, so you should know how they are all applicable. And then Yuddha Prashna is used in Mahabharata. Yuddha Prashna is about Mars primarily because it is a warrior planet, and the planets associated with Mars. It will be differently given. You have to know, you have to decipher using your Anupalabdhi or your Arthapati. And then Vishaka is a star of Skanda, who is a warrior god. So that reference also will be there, whether Vishaka is affected or not. So it's not just about some astronomy reference, but about specifically about a Yuddha Prashna. And then the yearly prediction is given in Mahabharata. That is, even now we have a yearly prediction at the beginning of the year. In solar Sangramana, we have a entire horoscope created for a year, and that based on that during the different months we will be comparing. Oh, the one which was there like that during the year beginning, it has gone here, so it is causing the affliction. So like this, references are given in Mahabharata. And then affliction to the moon is always a reference to the affliction to the masses, because moon is a signifactor of people, of masses, like sun is a signifactor of the king. In Mahabharata, during the humiliation of Draupadi, the son is supposed to be afflicted, is said to be afflicted. Actually, it is an affliction to the king that is meant there. So we have to apply our Ganesha moment mind there. And then there are planetary orbs. Orbs means some degrees are allotted to the each of the planets, like 9 degrees or 12 degrees, even before they have come into contact with the planet. When they are at a distance of that particular orb, when they have come within that orb, the affliction starts. So all these are applicable in Mahabharata, and we should know them. Then based on this kind of data, we have to just find out which are forming the primary sources of evidence, or in the Western methodology and Vedic methodology I have given. In Western methodology, primary sources of evidence and secondary sources of evidence are there. You may ask me why we should use Western methodology. Because it is an approved one, internationally approved one, and it is applicable to us also, because in the Vedic method, what you call as Pratyaksha and Upamana, the Shabda, are primary sources of evidence. Primary sources of evidence are those that had happened at the time of the event in the Itihasa, that is contemporaneous to that. And the secondary are which were created later but dependent upon the primary sources of evidence. See, these are all the international standards. Whenever we do research, it should be abiding both our text, because they were created based on our Pramanas, but they should be able to satisfy the international standards also, to make it acceptable to the international community. Because when I say 3136 is my time, the foreigners also should accept it. You may ask, why should they accept it? No, international research field, in the research, it should be accepted in the international research field, because this is a research. And then people anywhere it should be applicable to all, it should be acceptable to all, admissible to all. That is why we will follow that also. In the case of primary sources of evidence, which are nothing but the Shabda Pramana, we have the text of the Mahabharata, which was contemporaneous to the period, and Kali Yuga date because Krishna left on that day. And we are using the Kali Yuga calendar even now. So Krishna being a main character of Mahabharata, Kali Yuga date forms a very good anchor of time. So we have to have that as a Shabda Pramana. And then inscriptions of King Janamejaya, in whose, that this is Janamejaya was the one in whose presence Mahabharata was recited. So his inscriptions also carry value when we are analyzing the date of the Mahabharata. And secondary sources of evidence, in the absence of the date supported by the primary source of evidence, there is no value added to the secondary source of evidence. When you don't know which is the primary date, how can you say a secondary date will give that? For example, nowadays people talk about Sinavali. It happened some 3000 or 3500 years ago. Sinavali horse chariot. They call it as a part of Mahabharata. How can you say when you don't know exactly what is the primary date? And also, in the absence of the primary date, no value added to the secondary date. Suppose a date is found out, located by the primary source of evidence, it is not mandatory to be supported by the secondary source of evidence. That is what those two books, the authors, they anyway you have proved by the primary source of evidence. If you get a secondary source of evidence in support of it, fine. If you don't get it, don't bother. And then any secondary evidence must be date specific because this is a historical date and it must indicate the exact date given by the primary evidence. In this way, we can analyze the Epoch of Arundhati. You know very well who has given that. The Epoch of Arundhati is not a primary evidence because it is not given in the Mahabharata text at all. And it is neither the secondary evidence because no later literature, no later texts have given that. So it is neither a primary and nor a secondary evidence. It has no relevance at all. And also it's given as a range, not a specific year, whereas Mahabharata date is a specific historical year. And it also talks about the hypothetical deductive method, which has no relevance to historical studies. You may ask whether Dwaraka submergence is a primary or secondary evidence. It is a primary evidence because it happened on the seventh day after Krishna left. And when Krishna left, that is a Shabda Pramana. So the seventh day after that is a primary source of evidence only. But it should be relevant to the Kali Yuga year when Krishna left. And that date is non-negotiable. And in the secondary source of evidence, some people are asking whether Saraswati can be, the drying up of the Saraswati can be taken as a source of evidence. No, because it is not mentioned in Mahabharata that Saraswati went underground or Saraswati disappeared in so and so period or in this king's period or in that king's period. That is, it is not internal to the text of Mahabharata. And also the Saraswati did not dry up in 1 day or 1 year or so. It had happened, it went up over a period of time. So it is not year specific. So it cannot be taken as a primary nor a secondary source of evidence. Genetic dip, is it a primary evidence? No, because it is not date specific and it raises more questions than it can answer because no one knows when it happened, how many people happened, it covered which kind of people, in which place, which year. It's not specific at all. So genetic dip is not at all an secondary source of evidence. People just pull up something and then say, oh, this happened, this happened, this happened. We cannot take all these things. Only when you go in a methodical way, you will know which one to accept, which one to reject. So with this, we are coming to the close of the second part and we will meet you in the third part. Namaste. Once again, I request you, like I did earlier, please watch this, download this, and share with as many people as possible to spread the knowledge. Thank you.